this webinar today. We are going to be covering today, as you're all aware, the new features in Checkpoint R77. It's not an exhaustive list of all the new features. We're going to obviously be doing our usual seminars and best practice and all that kind of stuff later in the year. The purpose of this session today is very much just to get you guys up to speed and make sure you've got a rough idea of what the key new features are. Obviously got myself and Byte Security Partnerships. We've also got Tom Kendrick from Checkpoint on the line, who I will bring on in a second. I always do this, just a quick introduction for anybody who doesn't know who we are. I am David Vaughan, Technical Director of Byte Security Partnerships. I've worked 15 years within the industry. Byte Security Partnerships it is now. Security Partnerships as it used to be, bought by the Bytes Group 2 years ago now. We also have one of the second biggest Microsoft reseller in the UK in Byte Software Services, and one of the largest Xerox partners in the UK in Bytes Document Solutions. So we do have the whole setup available, if you like, in terms of the group and what we can provide for different businesses. As I said, today it's all about new features in R77. It's not just about threat emulation, although that's probably what you're thinking about, but there are some more things in it than that. And also we're then going to do, so Tom's going to go through the new features, I'm then going to do a very short technical demo at the end. What we'll do is we'll do questions at the end, so if you can all sort of sew those up, ask them in the questions window, and then we'll work through those at the end of the session. So I'm going to unmute Tom. Tom, are you there?
I am indeed, sir.
I will pass you over presentation. There you go, and you are welcome to go.
Okay, so if I do a share my screen, hopefully everybody can see that now. So good morning, everybody. My name is Tom Kendrick. I'm a security engineer here at Checkpoint. I've been at Checkpoint, I think, getting on for about 3 years. Prior to that, I was actually at Bytes SP, or SP as it was when I was there. So Dave and I are going to do a sort of a half-hour, 45-minute kind of run-through of what's in R77, including threat emulation. The idea, as Dave said, is kind of bring you up to speed, to let you know what we've been up to, and kind of just touch on some of the elements that are included in the product. So the reason we've created this as a product, the reason, or the main drivers, I suppose, behind R77 is born out of the changing security challenges that we've seen within our customer base. They fall around an increase in targeted attacks to our customers. Also, like in everything, there's always this eternal battle, and the more clever that we can get and the more things that we can do to help our customers out, the more sophisticated the attackers need to be to try and circumvent those measures. So the attack sophistication, we have seen an increase in that as well. With Checkpoint being like who we are and kind of the type of organizations that we work with, there's always been that increase in complexity in networks, just organic growth, increase in business, expansion of businesses. So what we're trying to do is create a solution that's based around our 3D security concepts of people, policy, and enforcement that makes security as simple as it can be for the administrators and for the users, so that security is not something that gets in the way, but that gives people comfort to know the safety nets are behind the scenes for them. The other key thing that we saw, or that we've been working behind the scenes on, is regulatory compliance, and we are very much aware that those customers who tend to have to follow certain standards are less likely to be the ones that fall under a particular type of attack. So again, we've had this this push and this drive from the regulatory side that we've been working on a project that integrated some of those regulatory elements into our product, but moreover, and we'll see this in a few minutes, adding in features that allow our administrators to kind of have a tick sheet or an action sheet of things that they can do to make their life easier, better, make the system tighter, kind of a best practice setup, if you will. So, I suppose the key headline in R77 is we've introduced the ability to block zero-day attacks and also boost the performance of our existing gateways by up to 50%. Okay, so those are the two key things, or the main key headline of the release. Now, there's three things we're going to cover in this discussion. Firstly, we'll discuss threat emulation, and that, as we discussed, is the ability to investigate the kind of what we call the unknown unknowns, the attacks that people haven't seen out in the wild yet. We'll discuss a new technology we've introduced called Hyperspect, and Hyperspect is there along with some other work that we've done behind the scenes that boosts real-world performance by up to 50%. So increasing application control, increasing IPS performance on the existing platforms that you have. And then in addition, and again, this is kind of like the unsung heroes of all of the work that we do, working with partners like Bytes on early availabilities and on projects. We're always looking for enhancements, for feedbacks and new features that we can add into releases as soon as we can. So when we're able to, if we see a feature, if it's a good idea, we'll take that feature and bring that into the product as well. So one of the key things that we think with Checkpoint as an organization is we try and always have what we call multi-layered security. Okay. And again, depending on the complexity of an attack, it may be that one or more of these different technologies may stop an attack or an exploit from happening in the organization. So what I thought I'd just do is kind of quickly touch on a couple of the technologies that already exist, kind of where they are, what they do, and then you can hopefully see where the threat prevention, the threat emulation features can come in and help us for a certain type of attack that I know is impacting a lot of our customers. So, to start with IPS. IPS, or intrusion prevention, what we're looking for here is the ability to stop exploits of known vulnerabilities in the software. So, for example, everybody knows about Patch Tuesday, where issues, for example, have been reported into Microsoft. The Microsoft developers have gone and created a patch for that particular application, and then on Patch Tuesday you download your update. Now, in that window, in that gap between the announcement being made and the patch being made available, with IPS you are able to block attacks in the wire that mean even if your servers or clients are not yet patched, you know that that attack cannot take place, or that exploit cannot take place on your client devices, because the Checkpoint Gateway can stop that known exploit from taking place. Second, we have antivirus. And again, antivirus is network antivirus. This allows us to just completely block files that we know to be bad. Okay, so files that have got viruses contained within them, we can bin them on the gateway, make sure they don't come down to your clients. The third thing that we introduced in one of the previous releases was the anti-bot software blade. And the anti-bot software blade was kind of our first step towards this sort of this world of the unknown unknowns, where IPS and AV, they're working on things that we know about, that we've seen, it's been reported to us as well as some other security vendors. Antibot says, hang on a minute, let's just take a look at the network traffic. Let's take a look at behavior. Let's take a look at where you're connecting to. I don't necessarily know that you're doing something that's definitely bad just yet, but what I can say is if I can see that your machine is connecting to a particular site that's known to host bots, viruses, connecting to a server that we know is a command control server, the one thing we can be pretty sure of is it's not good intentions. Okay, that's where the anti-bot as a system comes in for us. Now, there was also this question that we had in the back of our minds was, what about new attacks? What about things that we haven't kind of seen? This unknown unknown, so a piece of software or a vulnerability or some sort of action that can take place on one of our client devices that no one's seen before. It's not to a command and control server that we've seen before. What if it's completely kind of unknown to any of us in the security industry? What can we do? Now, the issue that we found is there are a huge number of what we call zero-day vulnerabilities within the public domain. So, top applications that we use day to day, and I think what's quite interesting here is Microsoft have always had this bad reputation of being kind of the guys that have always had problems, always had issues. What's quite interesting is if you take a look at those stats on the left-hand side, back in 2012, it was more your Firefoxes and your Adobes and your Javas, the guys that we kind of thought were the geeky, Linuxy sort of used for the small technical community, maybe not the masses, and also those viewer applications that everybody's got. Those were the applications that seem to have far more issues than the kind of traditional Microsoft, which had always been tarred with the "you don't write your software very well" brush. The problem we have is a zero-day can actually be purchased just like an off-the-shelf product. So you go to a security vendor, you go to Bytes, and you ask them for a set of solutions that will help you with your security. By the same argument, if you've got a zero-day that you can keep hold of, you can go and make a variant on that zero-day, and the result is there can be many tens or hundreds of thousands of malware samples and variations that are created day by day. The issue here is the database is required to hold, for example, every single AD signature on your PC, on a gateway, anywhere in the security chain of devices could be so enormous that the resources required to do that will be insane. Okay, so what can we do to address that issue? So for us, this is where we created threat emulation. So threat emulation has sort of four key features, or four key actions. The idea with threat emulation is threat emulation will start with an inspection, so to understand what it needs to do on these particular files, understand if there could be some issues. It will then emulate the file, it will sandbox it, it will put it into a virtual environment, and from there it will make a decision on whether any bad actions are taking place. It can then prevent those files from ever reaching your user community. And the great thing is there, we can also share this information back into the Checkpoint Threat Cloud such that other Checkpoint customers can also be protected from those malicious files. So if we go into this a little bit further, what does the product do? Okay, so the product is there to look at document files, so PDFs, Office documents. We've got zips and executable files just coming around the corner. So it's taking those files and identifying them coming in over email or over the web. Okay, so that's the first thing that we're going to do. We'll take those files and we'll upload them to a virtual sandbox, and that sandbox can be either in the Checkpoint Cloud, or it could be on an appliance local to your environment, so your own private cloud, your own internal network. Once the file has been inspected to understand that it needs further work, further investigation, we then begin the emulation process. Okay, so today we have Windows 7 and Windows XP. We've got Windows 8 just coming around the corner, but we take that file and we run the file in all of the environments that we've specified here. Okay, so we take your PDF document, we take your Word document, and we run it in a virtual sandbox. Now the sandbox is looking for unusual behavior. So we're trying to understand what is it that that file is doing that doesn't look quite right. The kind of stuff that we're looking at is file system access, changes to the registry, network connections, starting processes, changing processes. So stuff that we know a file has no genuine reason to do. The great thing here is because we are watching it, we're looking at it, the false positive rate is next to nothing. In fact, that we actually went as far as saying we don't get false positives. Because we can see what the software is doing, we can see what the application is doing, we can see what the file is connecting to, we are in complete control of that. We don't get false positives with this as a product. We then go to the prevention state. So again, we can run this in either a detect state or a prevent state. The choice is up to you as an end user. But it's kind of a unique thing that whereas some of the solutions kind of let the first bad file go through and then emulate and then make a decision, we are able to stop these files entering your organization completely. What's great for the rest of the user community within Checkpoint globally is we can share the result of the investigation. So once we've emulated a file, we can instantly update all of your other gateways to know that if that arrives at any other gateway, I'm now protected. But also you can optionally send the signature, the hash, the checksums, if you will, of that file back into the Checkpoint Threat Cloud. And as a result of that, then people are then able to be protected globally for users of other blades. Okay, so that's just like a quick overview of the threat emulation. Just to very, very quickly sort of touch on something that we saw. So as an organization, Checkpoint run what we call early availabilities. So this is kind of a beta, if you will, or an early version of a product that we run globally. Bytes, for example, are one of the customers who have been running this for us, and I'm involved with some of the others. And here's a quick example of something that was sent to one of our customers on the EA. Now, this customer was expecting an email from Citibank. Here's a statement ID, looked okay, and it came through to our guys, our appliance. We emulated it, and it said it was bad. And the customer went, no, that's false positive. I was expecting some stuff from Citibank. There's a problem with your product. Please get R&D to investigate. So the file gets sent to R&D. What we actually found was this was a variant of a known vulnerability back from 2012. We ran it through the virus total website to kind of look and understand whether this was a known virus, whether it was understood by other virus products. And the day that we emulated this and stopped this, there were 2 out of 50 antivirus vendors that were able to pick up this as being bad because it was a new variant. What we discovered was this was actually a bot agent trying to look around the network and steal credentials. Now, around about a week later, after we successfully identified this file as being bad, we ran the same file through the virus websites again, and then the number of AV vendors that then picked it up as being bad was somewhere around the 40-something. So again, it kind of proves that even in our early availability cycles, that we were protecting customers from bad files, from malicious files that nobody else, or very few other vendors were able to pick up. Now, there's 2 ways the product can be released. There's a threat cloud service, okay, or there's a on-premise appliance, so the kind of public cloud or private cloud. To give you an idea, again, we can discuss this later on, but what we do is we offer a service that says, depending on the number of files you would like to be inspected per month across your entire organization, you can pay Checkpoint a monthly fee for that service. So again, anywhere from 10,000 to 1 million files per month, and again, we give you some sort of ideas of recommended users. This is kind of a quota for you as an organization, regardless of the number of gateways that you have. Okay. The alternative, again, may be that you want a dedicated solution, which we'll discuss in just a moment. But the idea here is we can take your headquarters, your branches, and also just around the corner we've got an agent for Exchange. All of these can feed into the Checkpoint Threat Cloud, and they all count against your total monthly quota. Okay. The alternative is if you would rather do this on-premise, there are two options, a TE250 or a TE1000, and they are dedicated appliances allowing you to offload, again, emulation. If you don't want to send files up to Checkpoint to be emulated and you'd rather have them emulated on site, you can deploy this device in your organization and the files will be emulated within your own environment. Okay, and again, like with most things Checkpoint, you can do inline, you can do what we call mail transfer agent, so acting as a mail relay, if you will. We can do tap mode. All of those things are supported. Again, some of these things that require many or multiple devices from other vendors, you can do this all with the Checkpoint straight away. Okay, so that was for emulation, and kind of the first chunk. The other sections we'll go through are a little bit quicker because I think that was the key thing that you guys wanted to hear about. We'll quickly talk about the additional performance that we've done on the appliances. Okay, so in R77, we've been working very, very hard behind the scenes to increase the real-world performance of our appliances. Okay, this is one of the great things about working with the kind of the Intel architecture, that we can make adjustments to software, we can do improvements, we can do work behind the scenes, and on the same hardware, your performance can improve. There's two ways that we've done that. Okay. Firstly, there's some improvements that we've done behind the scenes in what we call our parsers. So, for example, we take a data stream in, and we've worked very, very hard behind the scenes in our pattern matching and our parsing products to improve the performance of those parsers, such that for IPS, for app control, those kind of technologies, the same security is there, but the code has been improved to make the inspection more optimized. So that is something that will apply to all of the gateways right across the 2012 range, regardless of the model. Okay. Secondly, we've also enabled or QA'd and gone through the process. We've allowed the use of hyperthreading. Okay, so on the 12400s and above, what it's done is it's doubled the number of cores on the platforms. So again, if you had a box that had, I don't know, 4 cores, it's now got 8. If it had 10, it's got 20. Just that's the real world changes that have gone on behind the scenes. What this has meant for the users is in R77, the performance of firewall and IPS, again, this is real world numbers, this is not RFC testing, have all increased. Okay, so there's been a significant increase, up to 50%. Again, the improvement is greater on the 12 cores and above, simply because they can benefit from additional cores. But by upgrading to R77, you get some additional performance. What this has meant for the smaller customers or the smaller appliances is, even though they can't benefit from everything that the hyperthreading that can give them, the security power units, so the horsepower, if you will, the horsepower metric that we associate with our devices, has improved on every device. Okay? It's also meant the throughput's better, the IPS throughput better, and the firewall throughput has also improved. So it's just kind of a nice thing just to know that by going up to R77, you'll see that improvement. Okay? We're going to move on now to the compliance blade. Some of you may know, some of you may not. We actually released a compliance blade a number of months back. It was actually released as an add-on to an R7540 based environment. Okay, there are small packs that you can add on, and the idea of the compliance blade is really to let our customers have continuous monitoring of security and compliance within their organization. Now, when I was over in Tel Aviv just a few weeks ago, I was working with some of the guys in R&D and some of the product managers for the compliance blade. I think one key thing that I would like to stress here is just because an organisation may not have to comply with a certain standard, say 27001, UK Data Protection Act, whatever it might be. The great thing with the Compliance Blade is the Compliance Blade allows you as a customer to have a library of best practice tests, checks that are continually being evaluated, enumerated behind the scenes across your estate. So it's kind of like having a professional services or someone kind of guiding, advising, assisting in making your security tighter, in doing things better. And this works across the blades that we have available today, across the breadth of products that we have. So behind the scenes, there are over 300 best practices that are being evaluated each time you make a change in your about to push your policy. Okay. What it does is it gives you visibility, and again, this is the key thing that we try to do at Checkpoint, is to give you visibility, because if you understand what's going on, then that understanding allows you to be better informed, to make better changes and adjustments to security to keep it as tight as you can. One of the things that's very, very useful, and again, this is kind of more for the day-to-day guys, rather than maybe compliance and reporting and the people that work with the external auditors, what the software can do is if you make a change that was generally not a great idea, we will actually advise you on your policy push, before you do this, are you sure you want to go ahead? You might actually violate this standard, you might break these rules, you might break these best practices. Maybe you want to review this before you go ahead and do it. So again, though it's called the Compliance Blade, there's some great sort of best practice day-to-day checks that it's doing for you behind the scenes to make sure you're doing things as neatly and as tightly as you can. Okay. So also, again, the last thing we're just going to discuss is also, and Dave will show you this as part of the demonstration, we've also tried to add in some provisioning features into the dashboard. Okay, so the idea here is you'll be able to centrally manage, monitor, adjust, configure gateways from your dashboard without having to go down to the gateway to make an adjustment. Okay, so what does that mean for me? What does that mean day to day? It's kind of like a central device management feature that we can log into clusters, we can log into single boxes. Obviously the box has to be running R77 as well, but what we can do is we can go and make IP address changes, routing changes, DNS changes, NTP changes. We can run scripts that we can make all of these changes, adjustments from within the dashboard of R77 rather than having to log into the gateway itself, making the change on Gaia, for example, and then kind of reflecting that change back into dashboard. Okay, just very, very quickly on the last couple of things that we just touched on, we'll look at some of the licensing changes. We've added some extra features for the for identity awareness. We've also tried to help with automatic updates and the hardware diagnostics. So again, this is just kind of 4 of the top features of the additional 50 that we've been working on. But what we've tried to do now is to make your licensing experience much, much quicker, sweeter, smoother. Okay, so during the Gaia Wizard, when you're installing an appliance, you'll be offered the choice to go and ask the appliance to go and activate itself and pull down its licenses, its contracts automatically. Okay, so that will make hopefully your licensing experience that much easier. That was something that customers kind of fed back to us that they found with the new technology. They found it a bit tricky to kind of understand how do I keep on top of the licensing. What we're also doing as well is if you allow, we can let the gateways chat back into the Checkpoint management server and feed back information so that it ties what's in your user center to what's in your dashboard. Again, that's something that we used to do as an exercise with quite a number of customers, to kind of go through and map this gateway called Firewall 01 is actually this MAC address, and it lives here, and it's got this contracts and license and all those things. So again, it hopefully is there to help you out, to make your life easier, to make things that much sweeter, smoother day to day as you're going around your business. With identity awareness, and again I've been involved with this one behind the scenes, we've now got 2 additional identity sources. Okay, so I don't know whether you're all aware of it, but IFMAP is a way for systems to communicate through an IFMAP server to learn information from each other. So IFMAP is now an identity source that we can learn identities from. And secondly, Radius Accounting. Radius Accounting is if you have a wireless access controller or something that's interacting using Radius. If you wish, you can share that Radius Accounting information with us. So with the Checkpoint Gateway, and the Checkpoint Gateway can then pick up the user acquisition. It may be for non-Windows environments, it may be for Linux environments, it may be for guest users, whatever it might be, we can now pick up that information as well. Okay? Very nearly done, and I'll hand over to Mr. Raw. The other thing that we've done is we've tried to ease the upgrade, the download, the patching of your gateways running Gaia. Okay, so again, there are a wide variety of platforms, a wide variety of devices, operating systems, releases, versions, all sorts of stuff. All of these things behind the scenes can be quite tricky to understand. Well, do I need this version? Do I need that version? What are my hops I need to do to upgrade the software? What we've done in 77 is we've added in some features that automatically, if you allow them to, can check in with us, understand whether there are any new versions of software, so console, patches, hotfixes, whatever it might be. Are there any updates for my gateway to bring down? I can bring them down automatically, and I can then decide whether I want to install them or not. And again, it's reduced the amount of downtime for customers because we can do a load of checking behind the scenes to make sure this is all going to go well. Final couple of things, hardware diagnostics tool. One of the things that we found with some customers is sometimes customers kind of don't know whether there is a hardware fault or a software fault with a particular appliance or device. We're adding in some diagnostics tools into the boot menu so that users can run diagnostics tools across the device just to kind of go, yeah, do you know what, before I install it or before I move locations or I'm not quite sure if this is behaving itself, can I just check the hardware? Can I just make sure it's behaving as it should be? Okay, so again, there's hardware diagnostics tools that are being brought in to kind of help and allow you to check the devices maybe before you contact the partner or with the assistance of the partner or with the assistance of TAC, whatever's needed. Okay, so that's kind of my sort of session done. I'll hand back to Dave in just a second. Key things obviously is the threat emulation, the compliance blade is in there, the performance improvements are in there. The licensing is simpler, the activation is simpler, there's diagnostics tools in there. The whole R77 as a release has been brought about to hopefully make your lives quicker, faster, more secure, make your lives easier. Okay? As Dave has said, what we're going to do is we're going to keep the questions just for a little while later. So thank you all for listening. I will hand back to Mr. Raw, who can now do a quick demonstration for us. And this will allow us to kind of see this in action. So Dave, I'll stop sharing my end and flick back to yourself. If you want to mute me down, we'll carry on, sir.
Thank you, mate. All right, I'll hit mute. If you send me a message if you want me to bring you back out, etc., and I'll hit mute on you now. Hopefully you can all see my screen. So first off, thank you to Tom for going through all of that and showing us all of that. I see a few of you asked some questions, so I'm sure Tom will be having a scan through those while he's waiting for me to finish this. So what I've got is I've got a little bit of a lab built up. I've got a Gaia box with two interfaces, an external and internal. I've got a management server. and I've just got an XP machine behind it just to show you how things work and what goes on. So, you know, really the place I want to start is I just want to start with threat emulation and to show you what that does. I mean, Tom obviously has already talked about what it does, how it does it, etc. in the presentation. What I'm actually going to show you is I'm actually going to show you it block something with a bit of luck and following wind. You can see we already had an incident earlier today. So I have some demo documents that are infected. I'm going to go into Tracker here, and we can see from when I did this earlier. So I'm just going to re-download one of these and you can see exactly what it does. So if I go across into a machine here, and I've got Internet Explorer all set up, ready to go, and we'll download a file. He says download a file, hopefully. So it's a PDF. I'm going to download this, save it to the desktop. You see no AV getting in the way here at all. So we download this, and this is going to fail at the end because this has malicious code in it. So there we go. That's now failed. So if we go across into here, this last time I attempted this was 10:39. There we go, 11:36, HTTP emulation. We have here an entry for what it's done, how it did it, and all of that kind of stuff. So you can see that this was prevented. You can see the vulnerable operating systems to it. You can see what it did. And as Tom alluded to, you know, this is a very effective tool. We've been genuinely very impressed with this in terms of how it's been working. So if I actually go in and view the output of this, it will give us more of an idea of what this actually did, to the machine when it was opened. So if we open this up, hopefully you can all see this. We get a screenshot of what happened. So you can see there's a document in there. We can see it launched Explorer. We can see it tried to convert some stuff. We can see it modified registry keys. We get screenshots of what it was doing in the background. And more than that, we can see that it's trying to make things run in the background. This is a list of all the different HTTP requests it's sending, etc. Bear in mind, it's all a PDF file. And this is what it was trying to do in the background, just do connections. So, you know, this is very simple at its heart as a concept, but obviously very complicated to deliver. But it works very well indeed. And we've been running this in EA, as Tom said, and we've had no false positives from it, and it's been very effective. Now, really, the area for us here at Bytes SP that makes this very important is that this ties together the whole piece with threat prevention, where we have basically now from Checkpoint a whole suite of threat prevention tools. We have the threat emulation, we have the anti-bot that's looking for the reverse command and control, we have the application control and URL filtering, which is identifying the applications and providing control of what our users are doing. And obviously we also have the AV piece, which is all signature based, which is covering the other part that threat emulation isn't. So I've actually, because that file that I use actually has a signature for it, I actually turned AV off on this gateway, which I'm just going to turn back on quickly. So if I re-enable antivirus on it, hit OK, and install this policy. And what we'll actually see when this policy installs is I'll just show you the AV piece working as well, and how it all ties back in. And you can see here straight AV, straight viruses, etc., as well as obviously on here advanced threats, which is what the threat emulation stuff shows up as. We'll just wait for that to push a second. It won't take long. And then I'll just go and download a virus or something like that. And we can see what that does. So just another second. These things always take ages when you're watching them. There we go, so that's all done. Go back over to here. I've got the age-old standby of being able to do a download of iCast. If I click on that, we get a block. There's a malicious file exploit, etc. If I actually now go and try and download this, it will also, it says, it would have blocked it on AV when it got to the end. So if I go in here, save this, overwrite it, this will actually also appear in Tracker as it did yesterday when I was doing it, as well as HTTP emulation. It also showed up as a signature as malicious code as well. And this is what you will see when, this is the other side of the picture, if you like. So when you download something that Checkpoint has a signature, doesn't have a signature for, obviously through C threat emulation. When you download something that somebody else has already downloaded, that a signature has been created and distributed, you see this, where there is a signature for a malicious file, which is what just happened in the background. And if we wait for this to refresh, there we go. So we've actually got a signature for that file. So you can see how that's been created. So you can see the two sides of it. Threat emulation, which is creating things that have never been seen, which is great. And also then we have this side of it, which is how the signatures are then propagated around the world. So that was the first thing, really, that we wanted to show you. The second thing, while we're here and while we're on this, is obviously compliance, which Tom talked about. Now, you know, compliance is, yes, great, brilliant for dealing with compliance. But as Tom also said, it's actually quite nice, and it just gives you a reasonably simple task list of things to do. I mean, if you go onto the security best practice, it actually gives you a really nice, simple list of these are things that you should be doing with your gateway. You should be, for instance, make sure anti-bot's turned on, etc. But if we actually go into the rule-based stuff, check there's a stealth rule, check that the firewalls have namespine, check the rules have comments. You know, this is all stuff that you can, as information security officers or as managers, evaluate your staff on. So this isn't just compliance with regulation, this is also compliance with internal rules and that kind of stuff. So this is quite useful, we think. And it's here, it's built, it's a simple license to turned on, nothing extra needed, it just runs. So it's quite a nice thing to have. The next thing, really, I wanted to show you was, Tom talked about changing DNS and settings and the firewall settings and provisioning piece. I have here a gateway. I show the DNS settings that are on it. You can see this currently just has Google 8.8.8.8 set as the gateway. This is the one that we've been using to pass traffic to. I go into that in Tracker and go into topology. I can go into my routes here. I can go into my interfaces. In this instance, I'm going to change. I'm going to add a DNS server. Just do that. Click OK. Push these settings to the device. Go into here, go to DNS, and there we are. So you can't change everything in the GUI, but it does make some of the most common changes a lot simpler and a lot easier to do, which again is just nice and very, very useful. There's one other thing I want to show you guys as well at the command line, because I know there are people out there, because I've seen some of the names will be interested in this. Checkpoint have introduced a new command line tool in R77 called CPView, and this is really, really useful. It sits here and it gives you an overview of the system, the space, amount of RAM in use, throughput numbers, that kind of thing. Go into the sysinfo, it tells you what it is, it tells you it's a gateway, it's not part of a cluster. Core XL is on, etc., etc. Uptimes, build versions, interfaces, speeds, all that kind of thing. In the traffic section, we've got packets per second, whether they're accelerated or not, and all of that kind of stuff. The number of connections, templates, everything like that. In here, we've got memory, we've got Secure XL information, Core XL. We can come down and we can look at the reason things are being passed up to the firewall and not accelerated, for instance, etc. And then we've got VPN identity awareness information on these last two tabs. So these are also really, really useful little features in R77, which I think are really cool, and hopefully you guys will get some use out of. Smart Event, as Tom alluded to, now knows all about the threat emulation stuff and everything else as well. I think Smart Event really, if you're doing anything more than just basic firewall, in Smart Event is a little bit of a must. So if we go into here, into all events, we can see all of the threat prevention events, we get an idea of what's happening. You can see this one machine clearly has issues. This is a machine I've been testing from, so you can see all the different things that have been happening, when they've been happening, and all that kind of stuff. So that is, you know, the main things I just wanted to fly through. You know, we don't want to keep you much more than 45 minutes, but I just wanted to show you these things working, give you an idea of what to expect if you turn them on and test them. I'm going to take Tom off mute. Hopefully, Tom, you're there.
I am indeed, sir.
And what we'll do is we'll just have a look between servers. We'll just now have a quick look through the questions and make sure we have got all of these covered. So I can see, you know, people have asked a reasonable number. Tom's been through and answered these back to everyone. So we can see all of that. We'll just give this another sort of 30 seconds. If any others of you have any other questions, then please throw them in now. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. Obviously, from our point of view, if any of you are interested in R77 or any of the extra licensing, please contact your account manager, or just if you happen to speak to any of the techies, have a chat with them about it. We have got a few deployments of R77 going on, and as I said earlier, we've been running the EA code internally for 6-8 weeks, I think, and we haven't had any serious issues with it. We haven't seen anything like memory leaks or anything like that. And we've actually got an R77 multi-domain server running as well, managing 2 separate customer environments internally as well, our lab and a secondary lab environment. We haven't seen any big problems with that either. So far, it seems a pretty good piece of code. Tom, is there anything else you wanted to add just before we wrap up?
No, that's cool. I think, hopefully everybody who was on...
There's one. Somebody just spinned the last question. Yeah.
Right. The cloud-based service... Does the entire file get uploaded to the cloud? Yes. You have to.
Right, fine.
So if you're doing so just to kind of run through, when you do the cloud-based emulation, what is happening is your gateway, when you turn on for emulation as a blade, because we are the greatest company to cleverly reuse stuff that we already do very, very well, the reassembly of documents that we do for DLP, that is the same kind of technology that's used to reassemble the documents for such emulation. It works well there, it kind of normalizes files, it stops stuff getting around it, so that element is used on the gateway to reassemble the file. Obviously the whole file has to be uploaded to the cloud service, and there are 3 locations around the world. There's Israel, there is Germany, and there is US. So based on geolocation, the file will be uploaded to one of those sites. It gets uploaded into kind of a front-end queue, and obviously to emulate the file, the whole file has to be uploaded, because unless we upload the file, we can't hand it off to an emulation appliance for the emulation appliance to then emulate the file. So once the file is then emulated, a response is then sent back to your gateway to kind of go yes or no, and again it depends if your gateway was in hold mode or in block mode, and then files are then deleted from our system. I think when I spoke to R&D, they kept for something like 7 minutes. I don't know why that's in my mind, but I think they're held for 7 minutes. Then the files that are deleted, but obviously the cached, like the hash, if you will, of the file that we know to be bad is cached and is made available globally. So hopefully, Magnus, that answers your question, but I'll put a slightly more succinct version of that into the chat window in just a second.
Cool. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. Thank you for your time today. As always, it's really, really appreciated. We've recorded this webinar as well, so we'll be putting this up online so that people can watch it back if they want to. And guys, all of you, thank you very much, and we'll catch up and speak to you all soon. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, guys.